Cool. So just going to talk a bit now about the sort of state of the industry. You know, PTs go through their level 3 PT course. Upon completion, I think a lot just assume that that's the end of their learning. They don't necessarily do any CPD, any further learning. They're chucked right in at the deep end, a lot of the time straight into a self-employed role where they don't really have their hand held a great deal. They have to figure a lot of it out for themselves. So we've tried to sort of address that with our courses, haven't we? Tried to make sure they're getting a lot of that knowledge at the course level rather than having to figure it out for themselves once they're qualified.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've got some stats here about the PT industry. So you're actually right. Once they're qualified, predominantly a lot of PTs will end up going straight into a self-employed role, and that's just because of the way that gyms and health clubs work now, that their PTs are predominantly self-employed straight from the get-go. And the stats that we've got here are quite staggering, really. So with regards to personal training, 23% of PTs leave their first role within 3 months. 50% leave the industry in the first 2 years.
That's leaving the industry entirely.
Leaving the industry entirely. No, not going into any sort of maybe fitness manager roles or maybe even sales roles, just completely out of the fitness industry, out of health clubs, out of everything, and just go and do something else. Because for a multitude of different reasons, but that's scary. You're losing people in the industry who, if they were given a little bit more help from the very beginning, they have a passion for the industry. That's why I got into it in the first place, whether that's because they love training themselves, they have a passion for helping people, combination of the two, wherever it may be. So of those 50 people, you're losing a lot of people who could be doing a lot of good, and they've just really got a bad taste in their mouth about the industry, and then they're gone, and it's quite sad. So you're absolutely right with regards to courses themselves, and that's one of the reasons we've changed the structure of how our qualifications, our diploma works, is they're not being taught about the consultations and how to effectively work with a client and sit down with them and find out fundamentally what they're looking to achieve. Because if you do that well, the sales process becomes much easier because you're not necessarily selling. Then understanding how to effectively program design for that client. I mean, we've had it, so many different PTs that I've worked with, and I know that you've employed, they will program for their client the way that they want to train, not necessarily how that client needs to be trained. So you'll have a PT who's really into his strongman stuff, really into like heavy lifting, big old deadlift, squat, bench, and then you've got Sharon who comes in who's never done any resistance training, really just wants to feel more confident in herself, just wants to get a little bit of that first initial fitness, and you're getting her to heavy deadlift. She don't need to heavy deadlift. She doesn't need that from the very get-go. She needs to be able to actually just know how her body moves, functionally understand all of those things. And I think that's another key point with regards to the courses. There isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's not your training is the best kind of training. And that's how we sort of fundamentally have created the course to go, you need to understand programming for the person that's in front of you, not programming for you independently. So no, that's it, and that's where the qualification that what we have created, and we're constantly improving upon it with feedback that we get from the people on the course, and so on, and various other different things that we necessarily see in the industry to improve upon it. But the qualifications that PTs who are in this 23% and 50% that they've been doing, there are some crap out there. There really, really is, and they're getting signed off of their qualifications to have a certificate for very mediocre work. And if that's good enough to pass the qualification, they then believe it's good enough for the client, and then they wonder why they're not actually getting results or doing very well in business. You haven't learnt the skills, and you've got to find a qualification like ours, which is going to give you the understanding, but then the application. Okay, I'm learning about nutrition, that's great, and that's part of the syllabus, but then apply that by creating a food diary analysis on someone. That's completely taking what you're learning and applying it. And then if you can do that well, and we will teach you how to do that well, it's going to be far easier for you to do that for every single client that's in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. I think something you touched on there as well is trying to make your approach as a coach, as a PT, as client-centric as possible. You might have your own training interests, and being in having a great physique, being in great condition may be something that does help you appeal to certain clients, but it's not the main reason people are going to keep coming back to you as a coach. So going through that consultation process that we discussed and really understanding everything about them, and then having a thorough enough understanding about programming, nutrition and stuff that you can apply those principles to a range of different clients. Like you say, whether their goal be lose weight, tone up, gain muscle, get stronger, etc. Might have a marathon goal, something like that. And you can apply those same principles just to a range of different clients.
Yeah, you were right. What you touched on earlier about the CPD at the very beginning, you're absolutely right. That having the foundation, understanding about the consultation, the food diaries and stuff, you need to know that from the very first instance. But the CPD, developing your skills, you're going to know what you need to develop based on what client results are getting, but also who's sort of going to you. If you touched on there the marathon thing, the amount of clients, PTs who won't know how to create a marathon program, that's absolutely fine that you don't know. Don't pretend you do, but go out and then find out. Like if you've got someone there in front of you who said, like, do you know what, I'd love to do the London Marathon in April. Okay, fantastic. We're sort of sitting at November, so they've got 6 months.
Yeah, perfect training window for it. Yeah,
perfect training window for it. But don't just go off and think, yeah, I can do that for you. Be completely honest, be transparent, but go out and then learn. If you don't know, but you have a friend who has done it, or you know that there are websites who give you a marathon program to start off with, so you have a sort of template that you can then change for the client that you know just personally. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because you're still catering for the client rather than trying to bullshit your way through it. And that's not going to help anyone. You've got to get to like March and they're nowhere near ready for it. And that hasn't helped anyone.
Yeah, I think CPD is a bit of as a sort of word, as a term in the fitness industry, it's a bit kind of almost disrespected. People, historically, it was sort of tied into reps, wasn't it? And you had to get a certain number of reps points, CPD points throughout the year to sort of maintain your reps accreditation. And that sort of died a death over time because there's a lot of crap CPD out there, unfortunately. And people realised that they didn't have to do that in order to get the jobs and pick up the clients. So people then have gone on to not really focus on continuing their professional development, whereas it is key, like you say, either whether you're trying to appeal to a range of different sort of specialisms, like marathons, like maybe MMA fighters, whatever you want to sort of focus on, educate yourself further on that specific niche, or if you're interested in more in nutrition or, whatever it is you're interested in, sort of going out there and qualifying yourself further and getting a deeper understanding, so key.
That's it. And that's where our CPDs with Create PT, with regards to, you say about they're the generic ones with reps, kettlebell circuit training. Yes, they're great to have, and they're going to help you with understanding how to do maybe a circuit class which gets you in front of more people, which could ultimately lead to some personal training. Great. Kettlebells, just be able to use a specific piece of functional kit better. Great, fantastic. But is that necessarily potentially going to build you more business? Who knows? Whereas having a CPD which is going to be specific to a demographic, so a CPD in, and one that's been in the news more and more in the last couple of years is women suffering with menopause. If you do a CPD on understanding exercise and nutrition for that demographic and be able to specialise a little bit in that, the amount of people you'll be able to help in comparison to, I've done a kettlebell CPD, that's going to create more of a business for you and understanding how to hit and help that person. If you can get 2 or 3 ladies who are in that sort of space in their sort of perimenopause to menopause state, and you can help them physically and mentally with giving them a better program because of that CPD, the word of mouth will spread. I mean, those 3 women, they'll talk to a load more women who, I feel so much better in myself. If they talk to 5 people each, that's 15 people, each one of those, the pool of people that you could potentially pick up as a client from one CPD that you've spent on is huge, absolutely huge. Yeah, people got to think about it.
Exactly, yeah. Tying it back a bit to what we said at the start with these statistics, like if people did focus more on that CPD side of things and making sure the qualification they're doing in the first place equips them with those sales and sort of business skills that are going to help them pick up clients.
Yeah, that 50% will be far, far less. That 23% should be far, far less, 100%.
Because ultimately the main reason for that, there will be some of those people that just decide that personal training isn't for them. They don't like the hours, they don't like the lifestyle, whatever it is. but most of it's going to be because they've gone into it and they're not earning enough money. So
yeah, they've had to leave to find something else because everyone's, regardless whether you're 18 or 30, trying to like, you've still got things you need to pay for, or you're trying to save up for your first house or whatever it may be. Everyone needs some form of income, and when you're going down the self-employed route with PT, most people like savings. Okay, I can probably scrape 3 months, and after that, like you're sort of changing. You might jump into a different gym thinking, oh, it's the gym itself. I wasn't hitting the right amount of people because the gym wasn't busy, or this. And we can all create excuses, and that might be part of it. But if you're just doing exactly the same things what you're doing there in the next gym, nothing's going to change.
Well, that's it. I mean, you're only one example, but you started off at Nuffield, which is an employed role in a higher end health club, then moved to the gym group, which is cheapest gym membership you can get, and now you're sort of mid-market, aren't you, with Anytime Fitness? So you've kind of done all three and you've made it work.
Yeah, you just take the same skill set. Again, people are people at the end of the day. It doesn't matter whether they were at Nuffield, who could afford the membership at Nuffield and have the more disposable income potentially there, or the gym group who haven't got that much disposable income potentially. You don't know, but you'd assume so in a budget gym. So, but it's still, if you're still doing all the things correctly, you're still being in front of people, engaging, giving the same advice, giving the same guidance and help, you've still got ample amount of opportunity. And what's great about the gym group is they're probably going to have about 5,000 members per club. So you've got a lot more people. Yeah. How many people do you really need to pick up a 40 client or 40 hours a week client base? Ideally, probably you'd want to be having, in an ideal world, you'd want between 40 and 60 people, because some people will taper off, some people are going to see you weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly. But to pick up that first 20 clients, you really probably only need, first 20 sessions, probably only need 15 people. And if you've got 5,000, it shouldn't be too tough if you do the things correctly.
Yeah.